to somebody else when I was interviewing them, and it took a while for the camera to catch up. There you go.
There we
I
go.
just love your hair.
Thank you. How are
Yeah.
you?
Busy, 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 busy.
I heard. Congratulations on another awesome event.
Thank you. Me and Shannon, we appreciate it. Thank you. All right. So we are here again, and we get to talk more about your books. So some of y'all may not have read her books, but you're going to find out today. Okay?
I'm
Now,
strapped into my chair.
I'm gonna ask some questions about the books, but I'm also gonna ask about you as an author because it's always a pleasure when I get multicultural and interracial authors in the chair to talk because I like people to hear it from your perspective instead of guesstimating what the fuck y'all doing. You know, it's always good to hear it from the horse's
Right.
mouth. I don't want y'all disrespecting them in any type of way. Yeah. So introduce yourself. Tell us what genre you write in and anything you want us to know before we get started.
So I'm Niccoyan Zheng, and I'm a contemporary romance writer. I'm Canadian, so a lot of my books are set in Canada, and they have a lot of diversity. Because of you, I've garnered the title of Queen of the Second Chance. So thank you for that. A lot of my books have second chances, and I'll, no, all of them. All of my characters are big women. They are
Mm-hmm.
black, and
Mm-hmm.
they are loved to pieces, just the way I like it. And
Okay.
they are loved by a myriad of races,
Some fine
because
ass motherfucking men.
that's how we do it. And they might have a little dash, just a little dash.
Just a little. So, what drew you to contemporary with diversity in it? What drew you to that?
Really, it's the characters. They pop up in my head how they pop up in my head, and I put them on the page. So,
Mm-hmm.
like Aaron Ma or Nico Carisi, that's how they appeared. Carissa Carisi, that's how she appeared. Like
Mm-hmm.
they pop up and they tell me stuff, whether I agree with it or not. Because sometimes the characters and I duke it out before I put their stories on the page. It's happened a few times. It's happened a few times. But I feel like that's my job is to tell the stories the way they tell me. But I like diversity because the world I live in all around me is very diverse, right? Like I can I would be hard pressed in my area to tell you a nationality of food we didn't have.
Mm,
The
that's
other day I saw like in Toronto, which is in Forest, like 45-minute drive, they had a Zairian, I'm saying it wrong,
uh-huh.
Zaire restaurant. I don't I don't know how to pronounce like, people from Zaire, but Zaire food. And I was like, dang, we we are very diverse. So
Yeah.
cool things like that, right? And I like to incorporate all of that stuff into the books.
I have to come to Canada one day. Because
Yeah.
Canada reminds me of Chicago. I know Chicago is just a part of Illinois, but Chicago is so diverse. Like, it's more diverse than New York and LA. But
It was really cool. I loved being there. When I
me,
visited for the event, I was like, this feels like home. Plus you guys have BMOs. So I'm like I looked out the hotel window, I'm like, this feels like I'm at my house.
so what was there a particular moment or experience that made you realize this space was the space where your voice was needed?
I guess I've always loved had stories in my head, and my dad's been telling me like since I was a little girl, you were meant to be a writer. Your voice is
Mhm.
meant to be heard, and I'd be like, okay, cool. But mostly it was with poems, and then as I got older, he's like, no, you should be writing books. And
Mhm.
then eventually, I was just like, oh, the stories. Like I read a lot. If like back in the day before I started writing, the way that you read, like you read, we were you and I'd be besties if I could just put aside the keyboard for a second and I'd be like talking to you about all the books. I love like that diversity in reading and stuff.
Yeah.
So after a while of reading, I was just like, these characters kept getting louder and louder. And I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm just going to jot down some stuff and then they'll leave me alone. Let me read my books.
Yeah.
No, ma'am, they didn't. So I had to roll with it and commit to it.
Okay. So how do you tell the difference between like a multicultural and an interracial romance? Because a lot of times people get confused because they think they're the same.
Okay. So because of the way like Amazon has named them,
Hmm.
they technically some books like if you're white, like just regular like Caucasian person who falls for an Italian person, that is multicultural.
Hmm.
So it does fit into technically our genre, but so that's how it is. It's a culture, exactly what it says, multicultural. You come from different cultures. It has nothing to do with race at all.
Hmm.
Whereas interracial, it's right there in the title. One of us is not the same race as the other.
Yeah. Yeah. So a lot of people get that messed up. They call anything that's outside of anything, oh, that's interracial. That is not interracial.
Your races have to be different in order for it to be interracial. So
Okay. So what unique challenges and nuances come with writing in this genre? Especially with it being contemporary, because even contemporary has its pitfalls when it comes to, writing outside of what people think is the norm, I guess.
I think the biggest pitfall is that people sometimes view Black women, especially, as a monolith, and
Mm,
I'm not gonna write every Black woman the same. We don't all sound the same, or feel the same, or have the same interests, or do the same things. So they're gonna vary, and their reactions and how they react to certain situations are gonna vary. So I'm proud if a character is not strong. I'm
mm,
strong if I'm proud if she's sassy. I'm proud of however she presents herself on the page.
yeah.
And even if she gives a little angry Black woman, and
Yeah. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that
well,
shit. We got carry the world on our backs.
our whole backs, shoulders, head, now they're standing on our heads.
Facts.
So sometimes it's gonna show through in unexpected ways, but also sometimes, not sometimes. I also like having characters that get to be soft,
Mm,
and I like writing characters that get the soft life because I believe we deserve it,
definitely.
especially given like, how we look. Like sometimes people don't believe we deserve the hard life because we take care of so many things. But no, we definitely deserve the soft life, and I want to represent that.
Does your work reflect personal experiences or relationships from your own life?
Yes. So I'm in an interracial marriage.
Hmm.
My husband's Asian. So, but that's pretty much where it ends. Like we're very. I try to not infuse too much of my personal like our nuances into it, but of course some of it is gonna like
Yeah.
slip into it. Stuff is gonna slip in because some people that I know swear that they can recognize like me in certain characters or my husband in certain characters, and I'm like, it's for you to interpret.
Right. Right. So, how much of
I'll tell
your
you.
how much of your cultural background influences the love stories when it comes to the black women that you write?
Um, I think it does a lot. Like so, I I have a few like my background is I'm West Indian. I was born in
Hmm.
Trinidad, even though I've lived here most of my life. So I have a few West Indian characters, either the woman or the man, because that was a new one for me. My newest, like my Christmas book, he was the West Indian. That was a new one for me. I was like, well, that's the way he showed up. Well, dang,
What
we
his
do
sign
this.
is?
This is how we do it. Yes, Ambrose, that's how he showed up. So that those things kind of bleed in. And like I said, like the people around me, like the different cultures around me, um, yeah, just I think all the spirits of my world, like all the things that I see kind of filter their way into the book.
Mm. Um, you've had
Thank
experience.
you,
You experienced like the indie publishing world and the industry, and you could say in multiple countries.
Yes.
How does the treatment of Black authors in the United States compare to the authors in Canada or in the Caribbean?
Well, I'm not really familiar with the Caribbean yet. I haven't really picked up on Caribbean readers.
Mm,
But um, so basically, I see like three major markets. Well,
mm-hmm,
four, let's say four. So the US, where I do have quite a few readers,
mm-hmm.
but that's also where a lot of like my author friends and author readers reside. Like that's a community that I've been a part of for a really long time.
Yeah.
Um, Also, I think second in that market would be like the UK
Mm,
and Canada. It's it's trickling really slowly, like
mm-hmm.
really slowly. But I do see that it's starting to build as I go out and meet people and do events.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little bit harder in this market, but we're working on it. And Europe is actually not too bad either.
Mm. Where are
Yeah.
some of the biggest where are some of the biggest misconceptions about Black authors that write contemporary romance with interracial tropes or multicultural tropes?
Um,
It's your face.
that's what I say. Like if my mouth doesn't say it, like my face is like, it's a book, people. Um, it's just because I have heard things like I know like there were like a couple of reviews or a couple of comments about me not being black or I don't sound black, and I'm like, that's a very interesting take because I'm like, I've done my DNA testing. I'm like 99.9, but okay.
What?
What is a black like? Again, we're not a monolith. So your
Right.
experiences are not going to be the same as my experiences. And so, yes, my voice may differ from yours, but it doesn't make me any less black. It doesn't mean I care any less about my culture. I'm raising. Yes, my son is is interracial, but he's still a black young man that I have to contribute to his growth and raising him. So I'm a black mama. So just
That is
bear that in mind
crazy.
when you
That
come
is
for me,
that is crazy. It just behooves me
girl.
because we sit here and fight tooth and nail when someone in the African diaspora says that U.S. American people are all the same. Y'all sound the same, and we know if you're from a different region, different state, you sound totally different from the next person. Our slang is different. The way we dress is different. Everything. The same with just the diaspora as a whole. Like for anyone to come out their mouth and say that is so ignorant and so whitewashed.
Yeah, and I don't think they actually realize that. That says more about your identity as a black person than it ever says about my identity as a black person. Like
Jesus.
straight up. Like just take a moment to reflect on that before you put that out there. And you may not understand all my characters, which is cool. It's cool to say I don't get that character, but also like I'm writing like for example like the different characters that I've written. Like I said, like I write Canadian characters. Well, like you said, like how states are different, provinces are different. So I've
Mm-hmm.
written characters from Nova Scotia, which is a very different type of a speech pattern, of thought pattern. They have a different history with the US, for example, right?
Yeah.
Versus like Central Canada versus out like my cowboy book. That's totally different as well. So see the world, understand that we're all over, we're everywhere, and we influence all of these different countries and places, and we present may not be exactly the way you are used to.
It's insane. And you know what? I have been, you know what? I'm going to calm my ass down because I have been getting offended. If y'all don't know, I started out reading interracial romance before I read anything else.
Oh,
Like, I started with just white authors because I didn't see any black authors. And then COVID hit, and I started out with Can You Write? I started out with
That's my girl.
yeah, I started out with, I forgot one, it was like an Asian interracial romance assassin type book. I started out that way. And then I went into everything else because I was just finding my groove in things. So when I hear people talk bad about y'all, it like irritates me.
Well, since we are on face to face, I just want to thank you because I have turned on at many different times and seen you just stand in the gap for us. And I've spoken to other authors, and we appreciate you so much because sometimes we do feel ostracized from Black authors, like other Black authors. Like
Mhm.
my blackness to go away because of who I'm married to or what I write. There are Black authors who write only white characters. There are Black authors that write only Black characters. This is
Um,
Black History Month. We should all be celebrated.
I
Actually,
say
we
this
should be celebrated every month, but neither here nor
true.
there.
I say this all the time. I have raised, and sometimes I feel like I'm still raising they grown asses, but I have raised Afro Latino children, and they had to deal with not being black enough and not being Latino enough. These are black and Cuban children who had to deal with that in school. You know what I'm
Yep.
saying? So when I hear people discourage people from reading black authors that write the diversity that is seen in the diaspora, it irritates me. I can't take away from anybody's opinion because that's your opinion, but making videos saying harmful things is just ridiculous. Just
Absolutely.
as we don't want other black people or white people to come in our space and downgrade or treat black authors any type of way, we shouldn't either.
No, we should
We
all stand
should.
together.
Now if you're wrong, yes, but other than that, there shouldn't be why. You know what? Let me get off my soapbox because there's so much.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing. There are, I don't know, like billions of books. Not everything is for you, and that's cool. Not everything I even like. Sometimes I pick up a book, I start reading, I'm like, swerve. It's okay to keep your thoughts to yourself.
And I say this, and I really say this because you are in Canada and you are black. There are authors that are in the UK and Africa that are in these Latin American countries that are black just because they have know the difference between ethnicity and race.
Yep.
So you don't if you don't like something, that's fine. That's fine. The diaspora is big. Nobody's doing the same goddamn thing. But stop disrespecting black authors because you don't like their genre. That ain't got shit to do with them.
Nope. Like, luckily for me, like, I like to read everything. Like, I
Mm.
like horror, I like mystery, I like thrillers. You don't have to like thrillers. You can just sit in your corner and do whatever you want. That doesn't have to bother you.
Girl, some of these people be making my ass hurt. Give me fucking hemorrhoids with y'all bullshit. Jesus. So, how do you work through the challenges of these stereotypes with your work? How do you make sure that it doesn't get to you? How do you make sure that it doesn't hinder your writing?
You know what? Honestly, it really doesn't get to me on that level. Like, I just kind of divorce myself from it. Like, because
Hmm.
those were like from reviews. And I just, when I'm looking, because at first, when I first started writing, my first piece of advice was don't look at reviews. And
Mm.
I took it for a really long time. But I'm a Libra and I'd be curious. I'm sorry. And I peek because I'm a big people pleaser in real life. Like
Yeah.
in my regular life, I like everybody to be happy. I want everybody to be good. You good? I'm good. Boo. Are you good? And I discovered, which I didn't think would be the case, when I was looking at my reviews, I was okay. Like, um, if it's a negative review, I try to take something from it. So if it's something
Mm.
that can help my craft, help me become a better writer, I can take that from it. Some
Mm.
things I think are straight up BS, like that comment, that like not bothered me, but that I kind of like.
Yeah, I get
I
it.
give you, I give you a stink eye, but other things like, oh, I wish this would have happened. Well, I wish I was taller. So We all have wishes, but that's the way the characters like told me the story. Sometimes I wish they would have told like tell me it happened differently too. So we on the same page. I understand.
Yeah,
Right?
I
So I
get
really
it.
try to not let that get to me. It's more like, world political stuff sometimes that lately it's been it's been a mofo.
Yeah, I've been debating. Should I go to Canada or Africa? One of the two. Because
Girl,
this
we
shit
we
show is
we
just
under
crazy.
we under attack.
This is not what I signed up for. The fuck?
Nor I. I did not sign up for this either.
So, okay, you have written from dark, because that first book.
Was it dark though?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. He fucked the shit out of her, threw up afterwards, and said, "Damn, why I do that?"
Well, what do you
And
put
then
it?
go back and fuck the shit out of her again.
Well, he didn't learn his lessons the first few times.
I was like, "Well, goddamn, stop fucking her."
He wasn't ready to yet.
Every time he would throw up, be like, "Now you know good and goddamn well." But that was such a good book. It was dark to me. It was dark. You know what I'm saying? My dark radar is kind of, you know, but
That's why I called it darkish because I'm like, it's not. It doesn't start off with like cherry blossoms, and he looks across the room and he's like, oh. So yes, no, it doesn't start off like that.
absolutely not. But it's such a good book. And then you have what is his name? Nico. Was it
Yes,
Nico next?
I'm going to go into witness protection because of him.
Nico was a dick. I understand what happened to him, but he was a dick. Even
You know
before that
what?
happened, he was a dick.
Before
He was a dick. He-
he was problematic in some of his behaviors. See how I did that?
Dude, that's nice. That's nice. And then you had Chef Ma.
People are not supposed to have favorites.
Chef, hi Chef. Yeah, I like
You
Chef.
know, I enjoyed. I don't know if you could tell, but I really enjoyed writing Aaron and his story, and yeah, I had fun.
It was
I
really fun. It was tension, but it was fun, but in a good way, tension. And it would just build up into something so pretty. Because when you mention them in other books, it's just like, look at them. Look at them. I love that. And then Pleasurer.
Yeah. Well, I had to redeem the Samsons because Azul gave them a bad name,
He definitely
right? And I
did.
was like, and there's a whole lot of them, so you can expect some more Samsons. Just letting you know.
So, okay, the Simpsons, are
Um,
they Polynesian or Asian or Asian is Polynesian. But are they Polynesian
they're Filipino.
Samoan?
They're
The
Filipino.
Filipino?
They're Filipino. Yeah.
Okay.
Azul is mixed though. He's Filipino and Spanish.
Okay.
Yeah, his mom's Spanish and his dad's Filipino.
Ah, ah, ah.
Yeah. And
So,
I didn't know I was going to be writing a Filipino hero. That's the kind of thing I've been talking about where people are like, "Well, how do you pick these characters?" Mama didn't pick these characters. You tell me you're Filipino. Now I have to go look up like a whole bunch of stuff so I make sure I get your culture right. Thank you for all that extra work.
whew, you made them sexy than a motherfucker. So what makes a compelling male protagonist um in your stories? What makes one besides the asshole tendency? What makes
Yes,
a
because you're giving the impression that I only write assholes, and I think I have some sweeties in there. I have
okay?
sweeties in there.
You have about four books that are just the sweetest, cutest, loving, but the rest of them motherfuckers, they dicks, they assholes. Before you get to damn, can we? What the fuck? Yeah, yeah.
See, you have to have a. Here's the thing. I like really flawed people, and I'm the kind of person that likes to study stuff. Like I like studying like astrology. I like studying like I'll pick up like psychology, like articles. I'll read that stuff because I find it fascinating to figure out how people think and do and move. And I don't think anybody's either necessarily good or bad. If that makes
Hmm.
sense. I mean, there's some mofo's that are just like, you know, to the core, just throw the
Hmm.
apple all away. But for the most part, nobody's all good or bad. There's like
Right.
different complexities about it of people, right? And
Yeah.
then people see differently. Some people like you like even me, okay? For example, you'll meet some people, they'll be like, she's so quiet, she's so shy. The majority of people are like that know me, like really know me, will be like, what in the hell are you who did you meet? Because we appear different to like, we come across different to different people, right? So yeah,
Yeah.
some of these guys are assholes. That's okay because they're not assholes to the woman they love.
Ooh.
Well, I mean, except for
Well,
you for that minute.
well,
Well,
wait.
for the half a minute.
Because I was about to say, well, Azul and Nico, they,
Oh yeah, them. I don't
they
know if I'm ever gonna live them down. I don't know if I'm.
Azul was just, I don't know. I understand grief, but that was the Lulu land. And then Nico, he was just a dick. He was, until he got it
You know what's
together.
funny though? You're the first person who equally has like the same dislike for both of them. Because normally what I have to deal with is Azul was amazing. He was grieving. I understand what happened, but Nico was horrible, or the vice versa, where people are like, Azul is an asshole. He's horrible, but I get Nico. I get where he's coming from. So normally I have Team Azul or Nico. So you're unique, where you're like, I ain't got no team.
I don't, because Azul, that was so disrespectful. That was disrespectful as shit. I would have kicked his ass right off the island. And then,
But so can you imagine that you're writing a book and like so I was writing the Elite series, right? And I was
mm-hmm,
kind of writing them each at the same time because there's three of them, and I was kind
mm-hmm.
of writing them three each at the same time, and I'm like, okay, like you know what? I got the writing bug is really hitting me hard. I'm gonna pick one book and I'm gonna write it now. So I was like all excited, and I'm like, let me really get into retrograde. So I'm like writing, and then I just hear like what he says to her, like right before he leaves to go to PEI, just pops into my head, and I'm like, who the hell is that, and what the hell is going on? And I tell my writing partners, this character just popped into my head, and they're like, ah, and he was on me, girl. You think he was on Amber? The way this man was on me, like I'm like, okay, what am I supposed to do here? Because I I didn't publish anything yet. I've never even finished a book. I've never finished a story in my life. All growing up, I'd start stories, not finish them. So I said this to my writing partner. They're like, you know what? Just write out an outline and he'll leave you alone. I'm like, cool, got you. I write the outline. I write the prologue. I write chapter one. I write chapter two, three. I'm like, shh, I think I'm writing this book. So see, he jumped me, like fully jumped me, and I just had to like
And that proves my point.
it does because he just and then I had to like that's not the retrograde that you guys got is not the one I was writing. At least not the way I was writing it. Because although I complain about Azul, I think he was like a really great teacher for me to
Mhm.
listen to my characters.
Yeah.
Because I wrote him the way he showed up in my head. I didn't argue with him because
Mhm.
trust and believe. I was arguing with Nico originally, and then he'd go quiet on me. I'm like, ¿Qué pasa, Nico? Why are you so quiet? Because he would tell me he wants to do something, and I'd be like, nah, sir, you can't do that. I'm not writing no character showing his whole behind like that. And I would write it how I thought it should go. And then he'd be like, I ain't got nothing to say to you, chick. But
So
Azul taught me just write it how I tell you.
with that, because that was a very emotional story. I don't care how anybody looks at it. It was a very emotional story because it dealt with grief. It dealt with guilt. It dealt with second chance. but there was so much of the grief and guilt in there and how it was handled. How do you approach writing um love interests that are layered? Because your characters are layered. So how do you approach them with their love interests being strong and layered and emotionally engaging when you write them?
Because, like I said, like because it's in my head, like the way I'm seeing it in my head, it's almost like a movie.
Mm-hmm.
And the best that I'm trying to do is capture all of the things that I'm seeing and I'm feeling from
Mm-hmm.
those characters and trying. I'm still not sure that I'm doing like giving you guys everything that I'm seeing and feeling and hearing, but I'm doing my really best. And I hope as I keep writing, I'll get better at capturing all of the things that they're giving me. Because, yeah, sometimes I get overwhelmed and bombarded because these are a lot of emotions, right? Like, even some of the ones that are like, haha, funny, I'm like, then they're going to
Yeah.
throw me a curveball, and then it's like, oh my, I'm like, oh, my heart,
But you
you
are
know?
doing that. But you are. You know what I'm saying? I don't think me having this reaction to Nico or Azul would be even necessary if I didn't like it. You know what I'm saying? If I didn't have that emotional impact, I wouldn't have deemed you the queen of second chances if
Thank
you
you.
wasn't giving me that emotion. And I'm not a contemporary romance type girl. Lately I've been, dipping my toe in the water. But I'm not. But reading your books, you give emotion. You give asshole niggas. Because niggas come in all colors. Um
I cannot disagree. I
you
cannot disagree.
so you give that, and you give love where it needs to be. You
Yeah.
don't rush it. You don't give it like immediately. You don't get that instant gratification. It's almost like you're edging us. So that's what it feels like when I read your book. Like
Well,
you keep me on edge.
I don't mean to edge, but 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 just imagine if you're being edged, what they're doing to me. Because I'm in it with you. I'm in it with the readers. I'm in it with you guys, and it's even worse because I'd be arguing with them for you. I'm like, you guys are gonna really like even like a reverent devotion. I'm like, Samuel, you are a whole minister,
He
okay?
ain't give no
Okay,
fucks. He give two fucks. He said, "Fuck
like
around and
none.
find out." He said, "Fuck around and find out if you want to." He
And I
said,
try to talk to him. I'm like, sir, you're a whole pastor, and maybe you need to chill a little bit and work with me. And don't try to trick this woman. And
he said,
and
"Fuck around and find out."
yeah, even to me. So see where I ended up. See
So,
now.
oh, that's cute. How
Thank you.
how do you craft? Now we talked about the males, but how do you craft your female protagonists? How do you make them as much of the story as the males?
Well, the nice thing is, like really early on, one of my mentors. Oh, thank you. That's so sweet. She said, if you can, tell it from both of their perspectives.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to be really honest with you. Sometimes it's easier for me to tell it from the male perspective
Why?
because we have so much pressure as Black women for our voices to be told in a certain way. Like
Mm-hmm.
that sometimes I have to really step back
Mm-hmm.
and let them tell the story they want to tell the story. Like if
Mm-hmm.
they're like I let them feel what they want to feel. Because sometimes even myself, like it's just I don't get to like be authentic. Sometimes I'm as authentic in my feelings as I'd like to be because I have to be cognizant of what I look like when I'm outside,
Yeah.
right? And where I
Well.
am and who I am, and well, to a certain
Well.
extent, right? Like we do have to like even if we're gonna pop off, we know there are consequences that come with it.
Yeah.
And so sometimes like I use like that lens, like I find myself going, girl, you sure you want to pop off like that? And she's like, hell yes. And I'm like, my bad, girl, let me go ahead. But one of the biggest pushbacks that I had one of the characters that I was the most worried about, honestly, and how she reacted. And I was really afraid to do it, but I'm like, you know what? That's how she dealt with it. That's how she dealt with it, and that's what I'm going to put on the page. Was Brooke, that she retreated,
Mm.
allowing her to retreat and try to find self healing with that pain of humiliation that she went through was hard for
Mhm.
me because I'm like, girl, we strong. We can fight through this. We don't have to hide away. And she's like, no, this is what I need. And allowing your
Mm.
characters to have what they need and to put it like the way they tell you on the page is important. Because
Yeah.
am I a retreat? I'm not really a retreater by nature, right? Like, would I personally have retreated like that? I'd be like, listen, Juan or whatever
It,
your name is, because I would
it would
rename
have been
him,
lucky for Buck.
girl.
It
Because
would
the
have been lucky.
way, yeah, he would have had problems. I would have done a
He
case.
really,
Yeah,
he
she would,
really like that.
right? But that's what she needed. That's the way she chose to deal with it. That's
Mm.
what the healing that she needed. She needed like to be away and just have that connection with Aaron. And that's what, and then one day until like he needed her. But you see, when he needed her, how she was like, oh, I got the strength now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So she had strength in her. It's just, she needed time to heal.
Yeah. So uh what qualities do you believe make them authentic, make them dynamic, make them reflective of the realities of a black woman in womanhood?
I think it's how comfortable they are in themselves. Like
Mm-hmm.
they're not comfortable actually. Sometimes they're awkward. Sometimes they're not comfortable. And I think that is important to show that
Mm.
whether we're strong or weak or like we're a little bit like you said. I think you said in like when you were introducing me like in one of the videos, I'm a bit quirky, and I am. I'm a little bit
Yeah.
different, right? Like
I
I
have to
march
meet
the
her in
beat of a
person.
yeah, but that I think that it's important to show that we can be. I
Yeah.
want people to see how how we could be a little bit different, right? Like I
Yeah.
have characters that do all kinds of things for a living,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like I just wrote a short story that I just finished the other day where she's a race engineer.
Wow.
And I'm like, yeah, because we do whatever. I started a story earlier this week where she's a robotics engineer. What? I'm on an engineer role. I've got a book coming out next month where she's a genetics scientist. So I like to show us like in doing different things, and I've got cooks and I've got journalists because we're all over the workforce doing all kinds of things,
Mm-hmm.
spaces where they don't expect us to be, and we are excelling at those spaces. I'll continue to write women like that, cause you might try to erase us in those spaces, but I promise you, you can't.
Yeah, they're trying to make us the handmaiden's tale in real life.
Girl,
Okay.
I'll try. I promise not to get political.
It's okay. It always happened because it's no way around it. Because a lot of people who said books are not political, they're either just delusional or just dumbasses or just racist.
Yeah, because I can feel it in all the books that I write. Because who you are, poor, like I said, it slips into into it. So if you're reading my books, you have an idea of like where I stand politically. I'm pretty sure. Just
Yeah.
the way like I'm a foodie. You know
Yeah.
that reading my books that I love food. That is
Yes.
not something that is hidden. And I
So,
love black women, and I love big black women. And I think if I could just mention this really quick, because this is
mhm.
something really important. Real quick. So I remember somebody saying to me, hey, do you have any plus size women? And I'm like, huh? Because all of my women are plus size, right? But they don't necessarily go around going, it is so hard. Why won't anybody love me? And it's okay to write black women or not forget about black. Just any plus size. It's okay to write plus size women like that.
hmm
But as of yet, the plus size women who show up in my head are not living that reality because all of us don't live the same reality. There's some of
Mhm.
us that, are comfortable in our skin. Yes, we want to be healthier, but not because we don't think all of these curves are stunning.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think it's also important to have those voices out there too, right? That lens.
Do you think that writing contemporary romance, writing um in a interracial or multicultural lens, that it has as much reader engagement and mainstream acceptance as the other romance subgenres?
Like which other subgenres?
Like, let's just say paranormal romance, uh, urban romance, what's the other ones? Thriller, romantic suspense, stuff like that.
I think it's I think it's harder for people like when you're dealing with contemporary romances and stuff. It's
Mm-hmm.
harder for them to not see like the world around them,
Mm.
right? So like when it's paranormal, like cuz okay. So this is my belief, but it doesn't mean that it's true. But
Mm-hmm.
very often when you're reading black authors and you're reading paranormal, like, I don't want to give away the game for them, but when you're reading like different aliens that are like purple, and some aliens have higher tiers than other aliens. Your black author is trying to tell you something, and you are
Facts.
just absorbing it, and it's okay for you to absorb it. So it's okay for you to be like, oh yes, this green or this two-headed dragon and this four-headed dragon can mate, and that's okay with you, and you digest it
Yeah.
because it's not, it's easy for you to escape,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But when it's interracial, it's a little bit harder. Like it knocks on your door a little bit harder, and then you're like, whoa, whoa,
Yeah.
right? But I'm gonna continue saying it is important to show Black women being loved and cared for and
Yeah.
appreciated and respected, and it doesn't matter who's doing it. And if you think that only one group of people should be doing it, you're entitled to your opinion, and I respectfully disagree.
Okay. What challenges exist in building um a dedicated readership, a dedicated audience, and how do you navigate those obstacles when it comes to marketing, when it comes to actually getting out there and being in the reader's face or online?
I think the challenge is like if somebody finds you writing something,
Mm-hmm.
they attach to you, like, so for example, like my first book is a little bit darker, right? There are
Mm-hmm.
readers who are still like, well, why don't you stay with dark? We like you dark. You
Mm-hmm.
know, we like you only writing novels,
Mm-hmm.
not like novellas or something else. But as an author, I have to stay true to the stories that are being told to me and the projects that I take on, right? So it's a challenge because, yeah, like I said, I am a people pleaser. I would like to give people what they like, but I can only write this. I got to be true to the characters. I'm not a commercial writer in the sense that, oh, I'm writing because this is really popular, and so I'm
Mm.
gonna. I kind of wish I was, because maybe, things would have taken off a little bit more for me if I was like able to do that. But that's not the kind of writing that I do.
Yeah.
I legitimately feel this connection to the characters, and I'm trying to write the way they tell me. And sometimes I realize, like, even as I'm writing, and I'm like, ah, darn, this would have been easier if this had gone in this direction. But I
Yeah.
know that's not the direction the characters wanted to go.
So
But
I
I
want to
hope
talk
that
to you.
readers like me enough that they rock with me and trust me, trust that I'm doing the characters, and will come around to something that you're really super excited about.
I'm telling you, y'all need to check out her books. But um, now I'm about to get into something, and if somebody get on offended about what I'm about to say, this is not the interview that you should be looking at. Okay, okay. Um, at large, predominantly white book conventions, do you feel Black romance authors, especially those writing interracial, multicultural stories, hell, just writing across the board and just being Black, struggle to gain visibility at those type of conventions, and why?
Um, yes. A short answer, yes. So I've been at a couple of different events, um, and I've been one of the only person that looks like this in the room.
Mm,
And so sometimes it has been a challenge for me to get seen.
mm,
And it's in some spaces I can be shy, like a little bit more quiet. So I really learned to like come out of my shell and talk to people, you know,
mm,
but in those spaces it's sometimes hard to be seen. But
yeah.
I at least appreciate that they're trying to incorporate us more into these events. And there are readers out there that are like, if you engage them, some of them may not come to you, but I find like some of them, like, they're kind of curious. So if you engage them,
Mm-hmm.
then they're like, oh, okay, well, tell me more about this. Because at the end of the day, I tell human stories, right? Like, you're a human, right? The people just happen, like, the main character just happens to be a Black woman. You can't
Mm,
identify with another woman because she's not the same color as you. I identify with different women that are not the same race as I am.
mm-hmm.
It's not difficult, right? But conversely, you are like a truth serum to me, Miss Storm. I'm going to say this. In those spaces,
Mm-hmm.
the most disheartening thing that happens to me, and not only to me, because I've spoken to other authors, is when you see another person of color. And
Mm.
you're like, thank you, Jesus. And they give you one of these
Oh,
and walk by, and you're like, but, can you just, yeah. So that happens quite a lot. And
wow.
it's a hard, it's a little bit of a hard pill to swallow, but they're not, they weren't in that space for us.
Okay.
So it's a little bit harder for them to, you know, but we have to show up. Well, at least I feel like I got to show up
Mm.
and let them know I'm here. It's sorry, I heard a thing go off in my head. Like, yeah, I let people know I'm here and that I'm telling good stories. And not only I'm telling good stories, because that's another thing I'll do. Like, I probably shouldn't be doing this because, but it's my nature. I'll be like, yeah, I write this book. Oh, and they'll say, oh, but I like this. And I'm like, oh, well, you know who else I know write good book? Like, oh, and I'll start, oh, who's that? I'm like, oh, she's amazing. And I'll tell them about other authors
Yeah. Yeah.
because some of them are just not exposed. So I'm going to tell them about Kenya Wrights and
Oh,
and Evelyn Solas and all the other amazing Brittany Cherry and all the other amazing, phenomenal Naomi Rowland. Because if you want to do Canadian, I could roll with you too, right? There's
yeah.
so many amazing Black authors out there.
So, what barriers still exist, and what needs to change in regards to indie publishing, traditional publishing, book events, for more of a was it the word equitable? Yeah, equitable. What you
Equitable, yeah.
find? What more needs to happen?
Um, there's so many divides, right? When you're looking as Black authors, we fall into so many divides, right? So
Mm-hmm.
first of all, like there's the trads and the indies, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we have to fight our way through those, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you have to fight your way through race. And then when you think, okay, oh, okay, whew, I got through that one, then it's like inside of your own race is like, oh, but you're not writing what we write.
Mm.
Sorry, I'm sad, right? And so if we could just, oh, and then there's like sex, like, female authors, male authors. I just wish that we could just, if we don't like something, it's cool. We don't have to always get on, like, we talk about what we don't read and what we don't like, we can talk about the things that we enjoy. That would
Mm,
make the space, you would find how much healthier and how much more cooperative that space would be if
mm,
we actually did that instead, right? Because I'm gonna be, I'll tell you, there's been books that I have picked up and I'm like, I can't read this.
mm-hmm.
And and I'm like, okay, well, I didn't go out and tell anybody, and it's a good thing I didn't open my big mouth because guess what? 2 years later, I'm like, oh, what am I gonna read? I pick up that same book and I'm like, damn, and it like just sweeps me away
Mm-hmm.
because sometimes a book is not only sometimes not a book for you, but sometimes a book is not for you right now. You, whoever you are as a person in this moment, you're not gonna get it. It's not for you. Keep it pushing. But at
Yeah.
another point, that might be the book for you, the book that like just opens you up. And
Mm,
I've had that happen where there's a book that was sitting in my shelf for like literally 2 years, and I'm like, I tried a couple of times, and I'm like, I can't get into this. And
yeah.
then one day, I'm like, my whole my heart burst open with this book, just like, oh. And a little bit of me was mad at myself. I'm like, why didn't you try harder? I couldn't. I couldn't at that point get through it. But when it was the right time, I needed all those words and it
Mm.
filled me. So just be
I,
careful with that. That's all I'm saying.
I feel that. I mean, it's only one book in history. One book in my 46 years on this fucking planet that I started reading because it was too dark for me. I said, not only will I not read this book, but I will never read anything from this author.
Oh, wow.
Only one time has that ever happened. It's not that she's not a good writer. It's just that it was just a little bit too dark for me. Just too
Yeah, because
much.
sometimes, yeah, just put, because I read an author and I was like, whew. I'm like, it freaked me out because, like I said, I'm a very visual person. When I'm writing, I'm visual, but I'm way more so when I'm reading. And she had her imagery down to boom, and everything was coming alive on the page, and I'm like, I
Girl.
don't know, girl. As I stopped reading, I said this book is not for reading after 7 o'clock. Okay, I need to sleep. I
And
need to
mind you, I
sleep.
read horror. So that
Hmm.
lets you know how it had to be for me to be like, oh, no. Just saying.
But that sometimes happens, right?
Yeah. So what are some of the biggest challenges you think is facing black authors in the romance genre today?
Biggest challenges. I think that again, I know I sound like a broken record, but that expectation of what we should write and
Mm,
how it should sound. Because even when you're seeing AA writing, there's like so much division in that house, right?
yeah.
Like just authors that write AA. Because oh, well, that character doesn't sound like this guy. Well,
Mhm.
if you would write a black man who's in the mafia, who's a badass, go ahead and do it, boo boo.
Yes,
Like that
Lord.
has nothing to. And if you don't like it, if you don't like urban, guess what? You could also do. If you don't like urban, don't read it because all of that is what makes us up. But there's also super educated black people that are high in society and their stories need to be told. And that's what you're saying. What you're literally saying when you're trying to police and tell black authors what to write is that we don't belong in certain spaces.
Ooh.
Y'all need to
I need
stop
to
doing
get
that.
a damn something that I could be like message. Something.
Yeah. So don't tell us what spaces that we belong in because I hate to break it to you, but we belong in all the spaces.
Mm. Why is that? Come on, come. We here now. Why is that?
So that's just me, because I know like for somebody asked me, they're like, why are all the people in your book got money? I'm like, because I like money. You don't like money? I'm sorry. I'm sorry money offends you and we got money. Because that's the other thing. Like all my characters. so far, because I'm not going to say never, because I may have a character that doesn't have money, but so far the women who are presenting myself got money. They got their own money. They don't
Yeah.
need him for money,
And
right?
there's nothing wrong with that, Joe. Y'all, some people be tripping over the wrong shit. I swear to God, the wrong
Yep.
shit.
Yep.
They out here banning books, and you tripping over that.
Yep. Because we're gonna have bigger problems really, really soon. And I write books that is spicy.
Mm, mm.
And I don't want people telling me not to write spicy. I'm like, I was wondering, like somebody's like, hey, would you like to be a part of this anthology? And I'm like, maybe if I have time. And they're like, um, yeah, but it's gonna be closed door. And I'm like, I don't have time.
I hate closed door. I fucking hate closed door.
I don't hate closed door because honestly, as a reader, I have different moods that I get in, right? So sometimes I need a palate cleanser. I'll read a closed door. It's not very often, I ain't gonna lie. So again, every book has a space. But as an author, these people be like breaking beds and whatnot, and out in the backyard and out in the park. And I'm like, y'all, people gonna think I'm a freak. And I'm not.
I mean, I be questioning some of you authors. Like, I need a camera in y'all bedroom because the way y'all be writing, I need to know. I
For
just
all saints.
girl. Okay, we gonna run with that. We gonna run with that.
I had a friend that came over after she read my first book, which I can't believe next month's going to be 3 years old, by the way. Consume's going to be 3 years old next month.
Damn.
But after she read that, I'm like, what are you doing? Because this child is out there trying to look in my backyard. I'm like, what are you doing? She's like, I just wanted to see. I'm like, girl, it's a book.
Yeah.
Ain't
So
nobody doing nothing.
where do you see the industry going now that it's getting more prevalent that romance is not going anywhere? All subgenres of it, genres within it, and all that shit is not going anywhere. But what is happening is a resurgence of indie authors. And even though people seem to think that traditional publishing runs the market, it's really indie books that run the market. Not traditional is like a small piece of the pie. And so, what do you see moving forward in the heading of romance, all of those? What do you see moving forward in regards to the genre?
First of all, I think we need to stop the division so we can protect our genre. Because they're real, y'all, they're coming for our genre, right? Because it's showing up some of the powers that be,
Mm,
like because these men are showing women affection and love and being physical and laying down the pipe the way it should be laid down, and I guess it's showing them up because they're feeling really insecure, so they're
mm,
coming for our genre. We need to band together and start going, well, you're indie or you're trad, doesn't matter, as long as we're putting out book, we're authors.
yeah,
You're not a better author because you're traditional. You're not more authentic because you're indie. Do you know what I mean? Like, we really need to stop that division and keep telling our stories and keep putting them out there,
yeah,
because there may be a time where we are going to have to fight for our voices to be heard. That we might have to have underground books, libraries, and stuff to push our books out if we're not careful, right?
hmm,
So while we're busy like being divisive, like they can come along and like just wipe us out, or at least
true,
our ability to tell our stories in the way that we have been telling them.
true, true.
So
So I know you have a book coming out next month. So can you
I'm
tell us? Because we're FYI, y'all, she's gonna be talking to me again next month. But can you tell us? Can you tell us more about what are your personal goals? What are you looking forward to this year, and where you gonna be at outside and your social media?
yeah, I'll be in the street. I'll start with the streets. I'll be in the streets this year. This might be the last year I'm in the streets so much. I know I said that last year, but for real, for real. So no, not next month. April, I'm going to do a Canadian event
Mm-hmm.
in Kitchener called Pages and Pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
So if any of you are in Canada, pardon me?
That's a nice title.
Yeah, right? So I'll be there. And then a week later, I'm going to a Polycon.
Mm-hmm.
And
Congratulations.
then, thank you. And then in June, I am going to an event in my city. And it's the first one in my city. I'm super excited. And guess what? This is so cool. Um, it's where I got married.
Oh
And
wow.
I'm like, we've got. And so I tell my husband, I'm like, hey, there's an event in Brampton. And I tell him where it is. And he's like, bet we're there. And I'm like, I'm going to go ahead and keep you.
Now I'm gonna go ahead and keep you.
And then in July, I'm going to be in Peoria, Illinois, for
Mm,
Riding on the River.
okay.
And my last event, not good, for the year is in Toronto. I'm doing Ignited by Books.
Ooh, these
So,
titles. Oh my
yeah.
God.
Right? They're like, oh no, whoops, I forgot one. In I told you I was made for these writing streets. Let me be specific. I was gonna say I was made for the streets, and then I was like, wait, hold up. Writing streets. Don't start rumors about me. In May, I'm gonna be in Niagara Falls at Romancing the Falls.
Mm, Jesus, that's a lot.
It is. I'm doing more Canadian events, as you can see, like getting
Mm-hmm.
out there and meeting the Canucks, you know. So yeah, so those are the events, and I'm pretty excited about all of the events. So yes, you asked me about the book coming out next month. So the book
Mm-hmm.
coming out next month is called Left. It is part of a series, but it's a complete standalone book. So you
Okay.
don't like you don't. It's not a cliffhanger or nothing like that. It's just like connected worlds. Uh, it's called the series of Family Secrets and Lies. Um, don't come for me, okay? When you read it.
Now the fact that you said that, I'm gonna come for you because I feel like
I just want you to know that I don't take glee in making readers sad and pulling at heartstrings and stuff. I don't. It's hard for me too. Just understand that. Just putting that out there. Having said that, it's a big book. Um,
I saw you
it
said it was like over 100. It's 100,000 words or something like that.
yeah, it's about 115. So it's over novel size. They consider that epic. Not me saying my book is epic. That's an actual size of book. So the story, I'll just give you real flat out. It's on pre-order, so if this floats your boat, you can be there. So I love telling mature stories about mature people. That's my jam. So it's the main character. The main male character is
Mm-hmm.
Emmanuel Scott, and he runs like a multi-billion-dollar company. He's been married for 26 years. He loves his wife. He's got 3 kids. Same wife the whole 26 years. That's who he sees. That's his work, right? The book starts where he's rushing home. Um, he's on a business trip. It's the biggest night of her life professionally.
Mm-hmm.
So hey y'all, he's not gonna miss it. So that's how the book starts. That's how you get introduced to him. You knowing like he puts her first. It's the
Okay.
biggest night of her life. It's the gala. You know, you heard of the gala before, girl. If you read my
Uh-huh.
books, you've heard of the gala. Why are you so untrusting, Storm? I see you.
Because the way you are describing it, it's like you trying to ease the pain in.
So he may or may not be served with the paternity test at the gala.
Oh my God. Oh, what I say? What I say? Jesus? What I
Yes.
say? What I say?
So yeah, it's a little bit of an emotional roller coaster. They go through a lot. His wife is, by the way, her name is Dr. Ivy Scott. She is phenomenal and smart, and she's one of my favorite characters. I know I say this about all my women characters because it's so hard for me. Like I'm always like, she's my favorite, she's my favorite. But I really love Ivy. He calls her Doc. Doc's his world, but things happen, and you as a reader and Doc and Manuel got to navigate all of this stuff and figure out what's up. Is he? Oh, I should say this. He swear he didn't do it. He's what did Michael say? That kid in that Charlie mom. So he swears it's not his. I did mention she was a geneticist, right? Like
She
if anybody's gonna know, she gonna know. So yeah, they work through it. There's a lot going on. It's a little bit of a mystery too, like a little bit of a mystery, a little bit of, but it's definitely a romance at times, and at times not so much. But what did that lady say that I just finished watching before I came on to see you? The promise of a romance is an HEA. I promise to give you an HEA.
You know what? I don't even give a fuck about that HEA because I feel like you just slid right in there. That bullshit. Like that was see, that's the shit I be talking about. That bullshit you be slide and with the sweetest voice, but be sliding it on in there.
See how I felt because he introduced himself to me. See, I'm trying to introduce you to him the way he introduced himself to me because he's like, I'm a
What?
family man. I love.
In my 50 Cent voice? How the fuck I get in it? What the fuck? I'm just trying.
I hope you enjoy their journey, is what I'm saying. And Emmanuel is a trip. He is probably, yeah. When you read it, we will talk about it. But he ain't rap too tight, and whether or not he did it, he loves her in his way, from his perspective, and that's pretty much all I could say without giving anything away. But it wasn't vellum, so you know, that's gone because they took that from
Okay.
us, and
Okay.
it
So
wasn't vellum.
how can these people order your book, and how can they get in contact with you if they need to get in contact with you if this here app goes away?
Okay, so I have first of all I have a website. It's Niccoyan. It's really simple to remember. It's niccoyanrights.com. You can order the book on the Zon.
Mm.
It's going to be wide, so it's going to be available in a bunch of places because my local library would like to make sure I get in there. So I'm going to make sure that it goes wide. And my everything is pretty much you can find me Niccoyan Rights. So Facebook you can find me Niccoyan Rights. Insta you can find me Niccoyan Rights. I'm on Threads. You can find me Niccoyan Rights. My email at the G. Why did it sound more salacious and than I meant it to be? I didn't mean it to sound that
Okay.
salacious. It's just an email. It's just
Okay.
yeah. So that's where you can find me. And yeah, it's coming out next month. It's coming out the 21st. And it's, like I said, it's a big book. They go through a lot, but it's an HEA. I promise you, it's an HEA.
Mm-hmm.
At, at certain points, it may not feel like it, but I promise it's an HEA. They go through it.
Well, I just want to say thank you for taking the time out to speak with me because it's always a pleasure talking to you, even though you be putting me through it with some of these books. But I enjoy them thoroughly, and I enjoy the HEAs because they are worked for. God damn, they worked for. But
I
I
want you to
appreciate.
enjoy them. I don't want you to take them for granted.
I definitely don't. None of them. But I enjoy it. To me, you are the queen of second chance. I love it,
See, I'm
and
wearing it. Look. I'm wearing my queen T-shirt.
I can't wait to talk to you next month. So, and I can't wait to dive into this book.
Yes, you will be getting that in a couple of weeks. I just need to go through one more round of editing just to make sure everything is copacetic. See what indie authors go through? Like, yeah, I gotta go
And that's
through
why we
it and go
appreciate
through it a couple
y'all.
times.
And that's why we
Yeah.
appreciate y'all. But on that note, I want to say thank you, and I will talk to you